right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Amir's Anecdotes. I have with us a very special guest, Meghan Griffin. How are you today?
I'm doing well. No complaints.
Good.
I know I always want to talk about the weather when someone asks me that. It makes me feel like maybe I'm just naturally a dull person because I'm always like, I don't know, the weather's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm doing well.
Good. There you go. Well, hopefully you're doing better than the weather.
Awful beginning.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
Good. So, Meg, why don't you tell the audience about yourself? Who are you and what do you do and how would you identify if I gave you a list of different boxes that you could check about yourself?
God, that's so hard because like I overthink everything. So I'm trying to think of like, what are all the possible ways I could identify? And it's now like a terrifying list already in my head. I am, I identify as a woman. I identify as a mom. I identify as a business owner, entertainment professional, white, I guess. Who wants to identify as white though? Honestly, we're just messing up the world in every way.
Listen, as a person
anyway.
of color, if I could pick, I would pick white. To quote Louis C.K.
You know what? I'm just gonna say I just feel like we're messing everything up. So it's not, but anyway. So and then I guess a partner. I think I'm a great partner. I identify as culturally, I'm Irish background, but Irish people always get mad at Americans who say you're Irish
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
they're like, no, you're American, and it's like I don't know. Being American is nothing. It's nothing. Anyway. Just kidding. It's beautiful for some people. God, what else? Beautiful for some people. What a weird thing to say. I guess I meant that I understand why some people would be very proud to be American, why some people would be like, screw this country right now. And then I guess I identify as an actor still. I act every once in a while. I don't know. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Tell me, what are some things I could identify?
Well,
tell me my identity, Amir.
Yes, yeah. So I know you personally, so I can tell you that you are definitely a New Yorker.
That's true. I grew up in the suburbs, though. I didn't grow up in.
I think if somebody tried to say that you're very New Jersey, you'd get a little upset.
Yeah, no, I'm not from New Jersey. No.
Yeah.
It's a different state. It's a totally different state. No, but I grew up in Westchester County, but I feel like since I spent all my adult years in New York, as in the city. It's like I identify as a New Yorker as an adult, and
Sure,
I was born here too. Technically, I was born.
Yeah, you're not like from the Midwest chasing your dreams in the big city. No, you take the train in.
Yeah, no, I was like I took the train in high school for internships, but no, but yeah, so I identify as a New York person. East Coast, definitely very East Coast. I identify as I don't know, I a daughter. And a cousin and like a sister and all that. I identify definitely I'm very close to my family. I love my family, even when they drive me crazy. And then, I don't know. What else? What other buckets are there? I'm a wife. I guess that falls under partner too.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, but you're a wife and you're a mom and you're a woman, you're an entrepreneur, you're a New Yorker, you're a lot of different things.
I said those.
Yeah, those are good.
But yeah.
So, and now you mentioned that you work in entertainment. So what do you do for a living?
Yeah. I own a company called Paradigm Media. We're an unscripted casting and development company, meaning we work more on the pre-production side, casting development for anything that is without a script. That's reality, documentary, branded content, real people castings. We do some production work for people who are looking to brand themselves and, create like videos on themselves professionally, their brand, things like that. So we do a little bit of a lot of things. I like to think well, so hopefully that's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, Megan actually cast me in my one and only commercial gig that I've ever done.
It's true. Digital video.
That does mean that technically I am a paid actor. So
he is. He's a professional actor.
That's
that
right.
Is true.
So everything that I say
am technically
is said by a paid actor.
I am also technically a professional actor since I was 10 years old when I acted in a Catholic religious video, which is not problematic, although it might sound like it is. No, I was in a video about the sacraments, and I remember having to be, I just remember, this is my first acting gig. It's great.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Yeah,
Quick
pretty
aside
impressive.
there, not to get into religion and all the other list of things we're not supposed to talk about.
Oh, I am Catholic.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't pick
I don't know if I
Catholic.
identify. I don't
Yeah,
know if I. No, I'm culturally Catholic. I identify as culturally Catholic.
you celebrate the
Um,
high holidays only.
yeah, and the holidays and like and I was raised Catholic, and there's parts of it that I'm critical of, and parts of it that I'm very much embraced. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Has any of that changed now since becoming a wife and a mom?
Oh, so any of what? Sorry.
Like your identification as a Catholic person?
No, I think it's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes and no, in that like my personal relationship with spirituality is the same, but I think it's how do spirituality and belief and faith in general, the most macro way of viewing it is important to me, and it's something that I'd love to introduce to our daughter, and I want it to be introduced, but I also don't want it to be like this is the only way and this
sure,
is the
yeah.
way it must be. So the way I view, this is just my own feeling. I know everyone's got a different feeling of this, but the way I view religion and how it played a role in my life was it provided a foundation for spiritual understanding,
Yeah,
and then whatever I got from there was my own. And so I never really felt beholden to the Catholic Church, or like
sure.
they were responsible for my they were that I needed to, that, yeah, I guess I should never felt beholden to them. And so I always felt like this was, but like we had interfaith, I'm sorry, we had interfaith, kind of like seminars at our church where there were people who were like
Okay.
Islamic and Jewish and Buddhist and, which I know, or like I think there was maybe someone who's Hindu, and it was like, and you'd all like talk about your different faiths. And I loved things like that
Oh,
because
that's
it
really
was
cool.
like, yeah, it was cool. And so we got to, and you'd all sit there and it'd be like a 3 or 4 hour, like just session where everyone would be asked questions and everyone would answer from their own lens of understanding. And it'd be like, you'd see the similarities and you'd see the differences and things like that. And so, yeah, so I guess my own viewpoint personally is that there's something up there. I don't know what it is, but I know we all should love each other and it loves us. So that's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel
that's great.
about it. Yeah.
So it's interesting, when you think back on your life now, and now, obviously I already know that you're in your 30s, and not that that's some big secret,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so you grew up in Westchester, just outside of New York. You always
Yeah.
had very clearly, because you did that. You were an actress when you were 10 years old for your church, and so you
So I
had
was
that.
5.
Or yeah, so you had that lean into entertainment and acting, and then you worked in that industry for quite a few years. And
Yeah.
then you started your own production company. So now you're continuing to deep
Mhm.
dive into that sector of your life. And now, recently, as you change chapters, you're now a wife and a mom. And throughout all those different chapters of your life where you zeroed in on different things, you faced all sorts of hardship and challenges. So when you think about
Mhm.
over that whole story of the life of Meghan, what is the most stressful financial position that you've been in?
First of all, I love the way you said that. Through the life of Megan, God, it made me feel like
Yeah.
either Monty Python or just really impressive. But so no, the most stressful. I don't know if this just is the most stressful because it's the most recent,
Mhm.
but the pregnancy. Finding out I was pregnant was definitely the most stressful time for me financially. That is the most. But the other time that I felt really stressed out was when I was graduating college, because it was right after the crash, and and there was like, it felt like there was no option. Everything was so pessimistic about like the world and like and finding out all that's just pessimistic. Even going to, as an art student, I was a drama major, so it wasn't like I was thinking I was going into a secure profession. But anyway,
Sure. Yeah.
but that time I remember feeling very insecure about the future, and I remember thinking very specifically, if I can afford a good cup of coffee every day from a coffee shop I want and to pay my rent, I'm doing great. Like that's all I
Yeah.
really want. I just want to not think about my coffee order. That's all I want.
All right.
And it's so funny because I think back on how that was really what I wanted. And I was like, then I'd be good. If I could work in fashion, I like, for these things, I'd be great. I work in entertainment for those two things, and how much that has changed now is funny. But anyway, that's the first time I remember being truly stressed out financially. But the most recent one, I think the more stressful one was finding out I was pregnant.
So how do you relate those two stressors? Like on if there was a scale here, so you're
Yeah.
concerned as a new graduate about your coffee and your rent to then pregnancy. What's the order of magnitude difference on those stressors?
Um, I mean, I think they're, oh, you mean like what caused both of them or what was like, or
No, like
how would I
if
compare them?
yeah, so like in that moment
Yeah.
you're like a 10 stress but you're a college graduate and then I'm
Yeah.
sure then you became pregnant, you're older and you're like that was not a 10 back then. I didn't know what I was
Yeah.
talking about.
I think so, not to make this too, but like I do think that like it's everything's perception, right? So like
Sure.
from what I understood and what I had, so I don't know. They could have been just as stressful as each other, but like I mean, if asking me now with the knowledge I have, yeah, sure
Yeah.
as hell more stressful getting pregnant and being responsible for a human.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was you're only working with the cards you have, so it was like or the tools you have, so it was kind of like then that did feel like that, and I wasn't stressed about buying coffee. I just thought if I don't have to think about my coffee when I buy it, that means you're doing well. Anyway, but yeah, but so I if I was to compare the two now, yes, I think having a child is more stressful financially for sure. But I it's like everything's perception too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
All right. So now with the pregnancy, what about it was so stressful specifically from that financial lens?
the financial lens it was a surprise. So my husband and I got engaged and found out a week later that we were pregnant. It was like we had no idea. We were not trying. It was something we thought was going to happen. Like, I was 35 at the time, so I was like, it was not something that I could put off that much longer. But
Yeah.
I was like, it's a year or two away, and I don't know what I thought was going to happen in those year or two. But in my brain, in that year or two, I was gonna be set. I was gonna be good, financially ready. That baby was gonna come into easy street, but I was just not. I was not mentally
Yeah.
uh, ready yet. Um, and uh, and not only that, but we'd also started a theater company, a nonprofit theater company, and we had just countersigned all the paperwork for the actors and everything like that. So it was happening. So it
Yeah.
was like, so we found out we were pregnant after everything had been counted. So everything was in motion already, and so we couldn't roll anything back. So we had entertainment industry has been not the best industry to work in lately because it's very tumultuous right now,
Yeah.
and there's not as much work as there was before, and everything. So there was that was happening. I run my own business, so it's like I'm responsible for all my own like infrastructure financially in my life, and
Yeah.
I am not the person I would hire for that job. So that was a lot, and then we just started this nonprofit theater company, and we just we were undertaking this big performance, and it was all happening at the same time, and there was just no time to process anything. And for some reason, and also and this is significant, your hormones are insanity. At least
Oh
for me,
yeah.
they were. Not everybody has experience, but for me, my hormones were all over the place. So I was getting like, hormonal rages. I was getting like everything felt overwhelming, and I couldn't get out of the overwhelm. Where usually I'm a person that rolls with it. I've always kind of prided myself on that from a production standpoint too. I can be thrown into a situation and I can figure it out and I can just get through it. And for some reason, I just kept getting stuck in the stress, and it was tough. But so it just all of it was this perfect storm. And for some, the fixation for me was finances. Like all my stresses went towards feeling financially insecure, and that was just where it all decided to live for pretty much the whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah,
was
that's a
just
long time
it's great.
to feel financially insecure. So someone listening to this is going to have a different definition of financial insecurity. So,
Yes.
was it a lack of assets? Was it a lack of income? Was income volatile? What is the definition of financial insecurity for you?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm happy we're talking about it too, because there's a lot of privilege I've had in my life and I've enjoyed in my life that that I think is, I don't want to not mention that, because they're like I have a very supportive family and a very present family. Now I support myself, and I've supported myself for the most part for most of my adult life, but I have
Yeah.
received some help for like the essentials. From family when I needed it at certain points in my life. Not a lot, but every once. I guess my bigger point is I have always known that if something, God forbid, happened to me, I'm not going to be on the street. Like,
Right.
I know that and that is a huge privilege in life. Like, I know I'll always have some place to stay. My child would always have some place to stay, would always have love around them. And so I have a very supportive family and a very, like, not like, not like super affluent, anything like that. But I mean, like, when it comes to like the most important things, like food, shelter, I would always be okay with that.
Right.
So that's important to mention, I think. But oh God, I forgot what the question was. What was it?
How do you define financial insecurity?
Thank you. How do I find it? So for me, it was just feeling like I would not be able to provide the type of life that I
Right.
would want for a child, and for myself. Like, what if there's no money in the bit? What if I can't help I've enjoyed so much, like, I've enjoyed this support. What if I can't give the same support I enjoyed to my children?
Right.
And there was also a lot of guilt around the fact that I have, like, I graduated with no debt. Like, that's freaking huge. And
Yeah.
it's like, and that's not something I had to work for. That was something that was a privilege I had. And
Right.
to have that and then be in this situation, not be able to give that to my job, like, that would break. Like, I can't imagine, like, that feels to me like such a squandering and such a selfishness of me. And so there was a lot of guilt I was feeling about how I felt like I had been set up and I was not going to be able to set up my child, and how much how wrong that is, and how
Yeah.
I almost feels ungrateful to me. And so anyway, so it was a lot of, I think a lot of my issues financially for me have always come from this place of being like, making it personal rather than
Yeah.
allowing it to be what it is. Like, allowing it, like, I always took it very personally. And so,
Sure.
and so for me, like, feeling like I was nervous, a lot of it was the unknown for me, because I don't have so sorry, very long answer to your very short question was, I have a profession that is not a guaranteed income, or not a planned income. So,
Sure.
so I don't know what next month is going to be. I don't know what next year is going to be. And that uncertainty I've always been okay with. But in that time, it was very difficult for me, because I didn't know how to plan for the future, because I didn't know what next year was going to be like. I don't know what the next month is going to be like, and how I did not then really have set into place. I had not created enough of that security for myself, because you can create security. It's something
Sure.
we've worked on. Like, you can create security within this realm. Or I'm sorry, you can create more, I guess more, you can make it more, you can have more of a planned amount. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but, like, it doesn't have to be totally up in the air. And so you can create, when you have a windfall, by putting that money into the right places, you can have it available when you need it. I don't think I'm saying this badly, but anyway, but the unknown of it all, and the unknown of my own income, was very overwhelming to me, and how I didn't have the system set into place that could alleviate that. And on top of that, we just did this big show, and,
Yeah.
we had, after that, there was, it's theater, you don't make all your money back. So it's like, there were certain things we had to do to, move forward from that too, which is fine. It's a part of it. You take a swing,
Sure.
and, you're figuring it out. You're building the plane as you're flying. So, like, that stuff in normal times would not bother me. I'm so cool and good with that, and I can roll with it. And
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough. It's turned out well for me. But anyway, it was a lot of adulting that had to happen,
Yeah.
around my personal finances, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
It
think
sounds
I
like
have
there's
answered that question.
No, that's fine. It sounds like there was this juxtaposition of the volatile nature of being an entrepreneur, but then this desire to plan and care for your child that really didn't coalesce well.
Yeah, I think it's, yes, I think that, but I think it's also that I've always, for myself, I have a high tolerance for uncertainty, and I have a high high faith in myself, confidence in my ability to make it work out in the end.
Yeah.
And I have, I've always found a way to do it. And, while I've always known I have the foundational security of, like, a family and a supportive people behind me, I haven't really ever needed to call on that support.
Right.
And so I have, and there was something, and I was happy about that, something I was proud. But when a child is in the mix, it's different. It's like, I can't operate on faith in the same way. I did not, and I do not feel as comfortable operating on faith in the same way that I did when it was just me. Because I I can scale back. I can become more austere. I can cut out things, but would never want to do that for a child if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So, so just there's a lot I can put up with for myself, and I wouldn't put up with it for a child if I was at all able.
Yeah. And just to go back to what you were talking about with, creating the infrastructure and structure around your finances when you're an entrepreneur. Full disclosure, I am Megan's financial advisor. And so we had talked about how just because you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, where you don't have the benefits of like sick days or PTO or 401k matches or all of those types of things. You can have that though. When you're an entrepreneur, you can have that. We have to create it for you though.
Yeah.
And that's some of the stuff that we were working on together. And then you throw that pregnancy into the mix, and now you have to. You can't kick the can down the road and say, oh, I'll do a 401k later. Now you're like, I have to do it.
Yeah. And that was it. It was that I have to do it now. And it's funny because in hindsight, I'm very grateful for that. Like I very much believe, not to get too woo, but I do believe that, things get put in your path for a reason. And then you get to see, and it brings you to a next phase in your life. And I think I don't think I'm not a person that for the most part is going, I learn by doing. I've always been that and I learn the best through mistakes and through obstacles, through having to overcome an obstacle that sometimes is because of me, because I did it and things like that. But It was, oftentimes it is. But and so as much as I had this fantasy thought of like, I'm going to plan everything out, like I'm going to like everything's going to be all my ducks in a row, and then we're going to plan to get pregnant, and we're going to do all of these things. I think I wasn't taking myself into account in that all that much, because there is also a part of me that's like, once it happens, great, we can't turn this ship around. Let's go. What are we going to do? Let's figure it out. And that is where I thrive in a lot of ways. But in pregnancy, again, I think it's that hormonal aspect for me, and the way pregnancy affected me emotionally. It was not as easy as it was when, as it usually is for me. Usually I kind of thrive in that setting, and in that I did not thrive during that time. I was very stressed out. Like I was thinking, can I become an accountant? Like, I just want something that's like I know, and that it's this, and do I go back to, like, I was looking up like courses online, like, do I switch careers right now? Like crazy things of like, for me, because I would be not a good accountant. So anyway, but yeah, so it was all of this. And so I think that pregnancy forced me to look these things head on. And, but I also know that where I was then, I did need help, because it was not like, it was too much. Like some things my brain works really well at. Finances is not one of them. It feels like, so it makes me angry, because it's like it feels like it should be simple. Like math is math. Math is right or wrong, but that's not finance. Finance
is like, not math. It's a perfectly made
all of a
up
sudden
system.
It's like jazz. Yeah. It's just like, and it's one of those. And if you don't know the things, you're either paying too much or you're not paying enough. And it's like all of this. And so when something like that is so overwhelming, it's like I'm a smart person. If I really put my mind to it, I'm sure I could learn it, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so anyway, so working with someone, for me, and I've said this to other people who work in my same profession, because there's a lot of us where we don't work in staff jobs, and working with somebody, it's one thing I say to anyone who's a young creative professional in my industry too, is I'm like, start working with someone now, because you have to set up a structure. We don't have, like, I did not have it, like, just like you said, I didn't have a structure set up for me. So I had to do that. Yeah. And I wasn't doing that because I didn't need to do that, because I was paying my bills and I was making everything work, and I was making enough money. And then once I had to do that, then it was like, I felt like I had to take a crash course, but it was very valuable to me to be working with it. Not to make this like a commercial for you, but it's like, but that's what this is now. But having somebody to walk me through it step by step. But not only that, also when we'd be on a meeting, be like, great, we're going to do this right now. And I'd be like, okay, I don't want to, because I wanted to put it off, because I didn't want to do it that day. But I felt better afterwards because it was done. And what I learned through doing that was, it's like, I would call people and feel like I was in trouble. Anytime I have to call someone about a
Yeah.
financial concern, I feel like I have to go to the principal's office. I am a people pleaser. I like to do a good job. I like to
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. And when you throw me into something where I don't really know and I feel like I did something wrong and I don't really know how to solve it, but I also know if I say the wrong thing, I could get, it's like I could misrepresent myself, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, then we're screwed, and I overthink everything. I just put it off because I'm like, I'm just not. But when we were on the phone, you'd be like, no, this is what we're going to say. This is what we're going to do. You don't need to say that. Just stick to this. This is all we need. Remember, you have every right to do this. That's really what it came down to. Is
Yeah.
I have every right to ask about this. I have every right to follow up on this. I have
That's
every,
right.
like, that's my 401k money sitting there doing nothing. I have every right to access it and move it here. That's
Yeah.
what you should do. But for me, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's
Yeah.
and
It's
like,
interesting
anyway.
how, you're that feminine entrepreneur, okay with that
Yeah.
wild, wild west of where's your income coming from, like
Yeah.
take life by the horns, and then you have to call an
Yeah.
800 number and you're like, that's okay, I don't want to be a burden.
Oh, totally. 100%. Like, yeah, it's very like we're all lovely, complicated beings, and
Yeah.
I
And then
am
you add
very much
pregnancy
in that
hormones to
way.
that, and you have
Oh,
to do it for the benefit of your
yeah.
child, and the two sides of you are screaming at each other.
Yeah, a little. Yeah, definitely a little. I think it's like, I think they were, I think it was definitely just that it was the knowing I needed to do something and
Yeah.
no, and I was going to get it done, but also kicking and screaming along the way there for
Right.
sure. So it was like,
So you've now painted this picture of this period of immense stress
yeah, the
and
last stress.
financial insecurity, plus the volatile nature of entrepreneurship. So
Yeah.
now, how did you go about solving for this? What were the steps that you took to kind of get out of that stress that maybe
Yeah.
another pregnant woman listening to this can benefit from?
Yeah. I didn't get out of it, to be honest. But no, I guess what I would say, like if I was talking to somebody who was in a similar situation, um, I think I'd say first off is just make friends with it a little bit, and like 'cause it's sometimes things in life just suck, and
Yeah.
you are just in a stressful place, and the fighting it makes it worse rather than being like, this is where I'm at. All I can do is take each step forward. There's something you say in like I think my cousin told me this when you like I do distance running, endurance, and so my first marathon I ran, my cousin had said to me, run the mile you're in, just run the mile you're in, because if you're at mile 6 and you're trying to run mile 20, you can't.
Hmm.
Like you have to just stay at mile 6, and
Yeah.
so that was something I really leaned on a lot. So I would say any sort of activity that you do that because it is. Any sort of activity to get your body moving and get those endorphins and get your mind on something. It's gonna be like a moving meditation. Do that.
Yeah.
Stay active. Doesn't have to be working out. Just stay active.
Sure.
And that's one thing. Financially, though, or I guess to deal with that financial stress, also. I think for me it was kind of like one step at a time. I had to get my emotions out of it, and I had to be super practical
Yeah.
because as soon as things felt emotional at all, it was too much. And I guess what I mean by that is I have a family who is like very like they want to give advice, they want to help, they want to do all this, which is awesome. But
Right.
there are some people in my family that it's like it's too much because they get concerned for me, and if I can
Yeah.
feel their concern on top of having this problem, it's just going to be too much, and I'm just going to shut down to it. So I knew I had to get my ducks in a row in a dispassionate way.
Right.
So I guess that was so like as soon as I found out I was pregnant, and it was all the feelings of that. I knew I had like 2 or 3 calls I needed to make. And I think they went in this order. I think one of the first people I called was my business partner
Yep.
because I needed to talk to some. And so this is what I needed to do to feel secure.
Yep.
I needed to create the security around me, and I needed to bring in the people that could help me do that. And so the first one was my business partner, who I have we have a great working relationship, and we're very supportive of each other. And I had to tell him like, hey, this is what's happening and everything. And he was incredible. He was like, it was when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, no big deal. Great. Okay. congratulations.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
first thing he said was congratulations. And that was a big thing for me because it was like, he wasn't nervous. He was like, Megan, I'm
Right.
so not nervous. Like, we all knew this was going to happen. It's just happening like a little earlier than we thought,
Right.
but we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. And it was just this like, from the person who I am like, outside of my husband, who I'm
Yeah.
most aligned with, like in
Yeah.
practical professional matters like that. And so anyway, so that made me feel good. Like that made me feel like, okay,
Good.
a little more grounded. I can keep working. I'm
Yeah.
going to keep working. We're going to figure something out. Yes, I won't be able to take off the same time in the same way.
Sure.
Because I hadn't been paying into parental leave with New York. I hadn't been doing any of those things.
Yeah.
I actually had planned on setting that up that year.
Right.
And so anyway, but I knew that working with him, because I have a supportive business partner, we'd be able to figure it out. And I just didn't know what that was going to look like. So it was still a little
Right.
stressful. But so that was step one. Step two was honestly was calling you. That was one of my early calls outside of like,
I remember that.
like,
Yeah.
outside of like family. And it's, honestly, I think I may have even spoken with you before I spoke with my parents. No, I don't think I did. I think you were like right after my parents.
Yeah.
Martin might have been before. Anyway, I don't know. But hopefully they don't hear this. But but then you were one of my early calls because you're gonna think this sounds ridiculous but this is how I felt at the time, was that like, if I tell this to Amir and he's like, you shouldn't do it, you should like, I was like, then what am I gonna do? But then that's gonna make me look at it in a whole new way. But
Right.
but no, but there was that thought that I might get on with you. And I actually thought I might get on and you'd be like, I don't know, Megan, God, what is happening? But like, obviously you did it. You were like, congratulations, that's great, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of what I was doing was gauging how I should feel by other people's reactions.
Yeah.
And so, but by people who were a part of that side of my life, that more practical financial side. And so when your reaction was like, great, okay, all right, so we're going to look into this, we're going to have to, and then you helped me get steps in that place. So when I was getting overwhelmed in the uncertainty, I could go back to the fact of like, Amir knows too. He's not stressed right now. Like,
Right.
We have a plan. We're doing this. All I can do is like run the mile I'm in, is do the next step we're talking about.
Yep.
And having those steps for a person like me who's more action based, having that like kind of dispassionate conversation, just this is what we need to do. This is what we're going to, here's what we're happening. And then making the big decisions as they came helped me take things one step at a time. So I guess it's a really long way of saying, just to sum it up, is like, make things bite-sized and still continue with those normal things in your life that make you feel good.
Yeah.
And hopefully that involves going outside and moving your body in any way, because it's like, because that was the helpful thing, just mentally. And then making all your problems as bite-sized as possible and just doing one step at a time and not stressing about 4 years from now when all you can control is what's happening right now. Because Lord knows I did. I stressed about college. I stressed about elementary school. I stressed about what will happen if, God forbid, she gets sick and I can't afford it. And we're going to the worst hospital. I thought of, when I tell you, I thought of all I was thinking of everything that could happen all the time. And then I would cry about it because, foremost, and because it's just scary. And so it's such a discipline to not do that. And just be nice to yourself too. And that's why I guess what I meant about the acceptance side, accepting that this is where you are and it's hard and you're going to be okay. But yeah, making your problems bite-sized, like contacting the right people who can help you with that when you cannot be that person, because I can't be that person with financial planning. So, and then at least not right now. I'd have to go to school for it, but and then keeping on doing those things that make you feel good and make you feel like you. So that is,
So
that
your first call was your business partner. Your second call was your financial advisor, who is coincidentally me. And then who was the third person that you called?
Oh God, I think I said 2 or 3. I don't know if it was 3. I feel like it was 3. Oh, the midwifery group that Andrew.
Oh yeah, that's right. You called the midwife group and a doula.
Yeah, that was I looked up that group, and but yeah, those were like the three that I knew I
Yeah.
needed to do to make this feel. But yeah, I guess I when it my husband teases me about this where he's like, he's like, I'll be so stressed out and overwhelmed, he'll turn around and he'll turn around, and then all of a sudden I've got like a whole plan in place.
Yeah.
And I've got like calls scheduled with everybody. And so that is what I'm good at, is like
Yeah.
setting things up. It's like producing. You're setting up the team for what
Yeah.
you need to get it done. And
Part of
so
that sounds like,
yeah.
you really need to have the trust to delegate, right? And having those people
Yeah.
around you. The
Delegating. Yeah.
Yeah, for the benefit of the people where I'm not their financial advisor, when Megan called me, basically the first thing we did was make a list, and Megan kind of just word vomited everything that she was worried about, from
Yeah.
college to buying Tylenol for the baby to everything, and I just wrote it all down, and we just started tackling it one by one. So we
Yeah.
addressed, having a baby, the hospital bill could be $10,000. Then what
Hmm.
will health insurance cover, and versus what do you have to pay out of pocket? How do you pay for that? How much are car seats? Living in Brooklyn, do we need to get a car? How do we get the baby out of the hospital? How much are
Yeah.
baby clothes? What do we do about her income? What do we do about the college fund for the baby? We made this long, 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 long
Hmm.
list of every single thing that she was worried about. And then we put the list in priority order, both by personal priority and chronological priority, because college is 20 years away, and made a plan of action. So even though
Yeah.
we have not addressed everything on that list, because now the baby's still really young, the list exists, and that gave Megan a framework of don't worry about it because we have a
Hmm.
list and we're tackling it.
Yeah. And I also want to be realistic with this too, especially, you say if somebody's listening and and they are in a similar situation, like
Yeah,
it didn't make the stress go away. So it's like, not being unrealistic, but it did allow for an exhale. So it's like,
yeah,
you know, the, like the it did make me feel like once there was a plan, it made it feel like it made the stress feel manageable, right? Like it
right,
was like
yeah,
I feel like it was like I don't know, like there's a team now. Like it's not
yeah,
just me trying to navigate this. I can send questions over. Like
yeah,
I send questions over to you a lot of just like email quick questions and like, should we do this? What are your thoughts on this? Can we get another meeting? And it's
yeah,
like, and that was very helpful for me just to kind of to help someone share in that
yeah,
stress with me, or how to delegate that over here and be like, it made me feel more in control.
yeah.
And that was big at that point.
And
But
candidly,
yeah,
you know, I have spoken to you and also a lot of my other female clients about
yeah,
before you were pregnant. Hey, let's start creating some of this infrastructure. And there was a lot of, and I've always heard a lot of like,
yeah,
later,
yeah,
because like just like paying into the New York State Paid Family Leave Act, it was like,
yeah,
we'll do that later. But I will say to anyone listening to this, if you want kids or you want to plan for your future, do it earlier, absolutely. But then the
yeah.
second best time is right now.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's so funny how it's like how far away things can feel and then they're
Yeah,
happening. It's like that. This was probably one of the most unexpected things to ever happen in my life. Maybe the most unexpected thing.
yeah,
I've been a pretty I've always been a person who's pretty much like, this is what I want to do next, this is what I want to do next. But which is kind of in conflict with something I said earlier, because like I do learn a lot from mistakes and from like
yeah,
I will like overload my plate and then have to deal with the repercussions of that.
right.
But my dad said something that was funny. That was like, oh my God, Charlie just rolled over and I wasn't there to see it. So
Oh
fuck
no.
you, Amir. No, I'm kidding. No, but yay for Charlie.
Yeah,
It
good
just
job.
he was like, she rolled over. Anyway, I'm like gonna cry. Anyway, it's just so funny because how stressed
All
I
right,
was, and
let's
now
wrap
like
this
she
up so
rolled
you can
over.
go watch your baby roll
No,
for
no,
the
it's
first
fine.
time.
Wait, sorry, but I was saying something that mattered. Oh God. Oh, I forget.
That's all
Oh
right.
my God.
So the,
I feel like it was a good thing to say. Anyway, whatever.
well, so I've learned a lot from both my wife and from you
Yeah.
about
Oh,
pregnancy
wait, sorry.
and
That
things.
was it. That it's very unexpected until it's happening. But this is what I was going to say. Don't listen to any birth stories of people that gave birth in Europe.
Yeah,
Don't do it, because all of the support they have in place in other countries that don't exist here is very overwhelming,
yeah,
and it makes you really pissed off at our system, because we
yes,
do have an adversarial system, in my opinion, when it
huh.
comes to healthcare. And so anyway, so that is something that, so you have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
And that was something that, yes, you should do early and often. And that was something that you wanted to bring up. And I would be like, yeah, okay, we'll do it later. And well, doesn't that suck that that's the country we live in? But the thing is, it is the country we live in, and you do
Yep.
need to prepare, unfortunately. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you can't talk about what it should be. You just have to play the rules of the
Yeah.
game that you're playing right now.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from you and from my wife when she was pregnant, in that now I understand that as you're telling these stories, there is hopefully a pregnant woman who's going to be listening to this story, or probably is bringing me a man listening to this story who doesn't understand what was overwhelming about what you're talking about. And there's a pregnant woman who's like, you got to breathe a sigh of relief. This is amazing.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it's, I think for birthing people in general, like having, like being able to create that community around you, or that from the, like we talk a lot about it emotionally, but also practically, because it feeds into the emotional side of it.
Absolutely.
And especially if you don't work in a company that has the infrastructure for that and everything. And also, for the record, I did tell your wife before you. She was one of my very first calls because I did need to handle the emotional side first.
Yeah.
And that was, but as soon as the emotional side, as soon as the kind of the shock of everything wore off, it was, then it was going into that. And honestly, and for all the stress that was there, we did get through it. And we did, my husband and I decided to get married earlier in order to have the insurance. You know, he found a
I remember that conversation. That was a math conversation that we had.
It was a math, because we knew we were going to do it. Like, obviously, that was something we'd already planned to do before we found out we were pregnant. But then, and I don't want to talk about his everything too much, but like he had been a contract worker, and then he was like, I'm going to take this full-time position because that makes sense for us hours-wise, benefits-wise, and everything. And so, you know, slowly but surely, things did fall into place, but it did take the work, and it did take aligning, it did take roping. Honestly, for us, it took looping someone in this case, you, Amir, who could help us navigate that from the financial side, because neither of us are as financially minded in that way. We can manage a budget, we can keep ourselves on track, but you know, we benefited from that outside opinion and expertise for sure.
Yeah, no, that's good. So hopefully, you know, your story can give someone some sigh of relief and figure out what to do. Whether it's me or any other financial advisor, that's their job, not just managing your portfolio. It's to help you figure all these things out. So Megan, I'll ask you 2 more questions, and then we'll let you head over to your baby. So the first one is...
And she's beautiful, and I love her very much, and she was worth all the stress. Sorry.
Good. I would hope that the baby is worth the stress.
So
the first question I have for you is, what in your definition is a good cup of coffee?
Okay. Well, like just in general, like season to season plan, like what's the day?
No,
what day
like,
am I drinking
when you're worried
it?
about like, I need to know that I'm always going to be able to afford a good cup of coffee. What is that good cup of coffee in your mind?
Okay. Now I see the call. So sorry. Okay. So now it's funny, and now I've kind of become a coffee at home person, but I like to buy like a good, like there. Yeah. So there's like, I've always liked Sumatra. There's like a mocha, or not it's not mocha, but it's like there's a Mojo Java or something, mud truck coffee that we really like. Oh God, there's another one that we really like. Anyway, I like a good homebrew coffee with, this is crazy, but I like, it's not really that good, but I like oat milk in it. And then I like a little bit of half and half, because the half and half color makes it, I like a dark roast coffee. So I'll put oat milk in it, and then I'll put a little bit of half and half to add to make it a little creamier. And screw everybody who says like half and half is so fatty, it's so like blah, blah, blah. Like what, I'm sorry, that tablespoon of half and half is really
now how do you like the
Go
coffee?
For the
is it drip coffee? Is it French press? Is it
drip coffee? I tried to be French press, and I tried to be automatic, like, you know, a coffee maker. Like I tried to do all the other stuff, and it's just so long. And then by the time it's done, the coffee's not warm anymore, and I'm gonna have to microwave it anyway. And so anyway, I love a coffee machine, especially now that I have a baby. Love it. If I go to, when I say a nice cup, I mean, like I like to be able to go to even like the zhuzhiest, like obnoxious coffee shop and get like a really good cup of coffee. It's like $5. The problem is though, I've been noticing that they taste like berries now, so I don't like it as much, because the fancy coffee, as soon as it has like this taste, I'm sure there's some really great, nice reason for it. I just not for me.
I get
not
that.
For me.
Now, last question.
Well,
sorry. Before we do that, before we wrap things up, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh God, it used to be Instagram.
Yeah.
Because but now I'm like not really on Instagram that much anymore. I guess Instagram. It's like we have an Instagram called Actively MT.
Okay.
Tommy and I made it for hiking, and then
Yeah.
Tommy's my husband, and then we just it never. And then I deactivated my Instagram, and now I use that one. Long story, but it's Actively MT. Just like it sounds.
Yeah. Great.
ACTIVEL
Yeah. Whether it's for production
MT.
reasons or
I
if
think that's it.
it's someone else who wanted to know, more
Oh,
about your journey.
production reasons. Yeah, Paired Up Media at Paired Up Media on Instagram or Megan with my name Meghan at pairedupmedia.com.
Wonderful. Last question for you. You said earlier that you are a people pleaser. Can you please
Oh
name
yeah.
3 people that are pleased with you currently?
Oh, like if, because I'm a people pleaser, I think no one is actually pleased with me. So that's an awful question to ask a people pleaser.
Yes, that's
I'm
the
like,
joke.
no one, I suck.
Yeah, that's the joke.
Oh, anyway, yeah, no one,
All
I
right.
suck.
Let
All
me
right, yeah.
let's wrap this up. Thanks, Megan. Thanks for coming on. Tune in next month for the next episode of Amir's Anecdotes.